Alright, well, it's pretty windy out here, but I wanted to try and demonstrate the glide on this. I wanted a nice gentle glide to it, and as you can see it has a pretty nice gentle glide even out here in the wind. Check that out. Whoa, stop.
Welcome to Ground Control and a second look at this 99cm Wingspan chuck glider. Yeah, I know, a second look because it deserves a second look, and because I wanted to give you guys some more information on what I did to this plane and what I figured out on it so far. As you can see, I have the decals applied. If you remember correct, I got everything straightened out on it. But if you remember, during the first look, the right wing was kind of drooping. It was lower than the left wing. And so what I did was, just to test it, when I put the wings together, I took some packing tape and I wrapped the entire center of the wing section where the two halves connect in packing tape to make sure that one wing wasn't just, pulling away from the connection. Well, that did help, but the right wing was still a little bit lower than the left wing. And someone had made a comment and mentioned that it could very well be the slot that the wing goes into. And I think he was absolutely correct, because what I did was I took just a couple of pieces of plastic and I put a couple plastic shims in that slot where the wing goes in, right on the edge of the slot on the right hand side, and that pushed that wing up just nice and pretty. So you may have to, do something about that. A couple of 1mm plastic shims in there work really, really nice. So and my wings are nice and straight now. I did take it out. I tested it. It was a little too windy, really, but what I was shooting for with this wing was to get a soft chuck with it and have a nice shallow glide where it was nice and slow and touch down nice and soft. Because the way these chuck gliders are designed, and with the two ballast weights that they have in the nose, 32 grams of ballast weight, it's very heavy in the nose. But if you're using it as a normal chuck glider, of course, you're going to give it a maximum toss at an angle, and so that weight that's in the front is going to pull that nose down as it reaches the apex of its glide slope, and it's going to cause it to pick up speed, and so it's going to glide further. But with a traditional plane, or since this is going to be a power glider, you don't want it extremely nose heavy. So first I went out and I tested the glide, with the both ballast weights in it, and it was very, very heavy. I mean, as soon as with just a light chuck, as soon as I launched it, it nose down. And so then I took out the aft ball bearing and left the forward ball bearing in it. So I removed one of the ballast and I put the cap back on it and I gave it a soft chuck again, and it didn't nose down nearly as hard, but it still nosed down quite a bit. So then I took the single ball bearing and I moved it from the forward hole and moved it to the aft hole, which is just about in the center of the canopy cover right here. And then when I launched it, it was nice and shallow and slow and smooth, and it came down and touched down on the ground almost nearly flat and just slid to a stop. So that was what I was looking for. But I wanted to give you the information on where that CG was, with a neutral balance on that CG with that one ballast weight, where I have that on the wing. So I measured the root chord of the wing, and the root chord of the wing is 112mm. Now these chuck gliders are really strange that way. I mean, they're designed to be really nose heavy. So the CG on this, on a normal plane, you would be somewhere between 25% to 33% of the root chord back from the leading edge of the wing with a traditional plane. With this glider, and my 48cm glider was exactly the same way. The CG on this is back 62.5% of the root chord from the leading edge of the wing, And I set my CG, where I marked my CG was 50 millimeters out from where the fuselage is, where the junction of the wing and the fuselage, just so I could get my fingers underneath it without the fuselage being in my way and balance it. And that put my CG 70 millimeters back from the leading edge of the wing, 50 millimeters out from where the wing meets the fuselage. And that's where I had a nice neutral balance on this glider, so that when I gave it a nice soft chuck, it stayed nice and flat in its glide and just kind of descended. So that's where I've got my CG. When I convert the glider, that's where I'm going to test my CG to begin with, is right there, 70 millimeters back. So I wanted to let you guys know that. I think I gave you all the weights, all up weight of this with both ballast weights in it on the first look of this glider. That was 115.4 grams with one of the ballast weights removed, because it's 16-gram ballast weight. The all up weight now is 99.4 grams, and then without any ballast weight, it's 83.4 grams. So how did I get the foam straightened out? Is I took both wing halves and I set them side by side to see how symmetrical they were in their bends. And so you can see right here about, I don't know, about 60% down toward the wingtip, you've got a little bit of a bend here. Okay, well those weren't symmetrical. One bend was a little more abrupt than the other one. And then on one of the wingtips, it was fairly bent, you know, quite a bit more than the other one. So I've used the hot water method in the past. The hot water method works. It's kind of cumbersome and it's kind of messy, but if you get the water too hot, you can't alligator skin this foam, EPP or EPO foam, either one. I have used the heat gun method. I've got a heat gun. Even on the low setting on my heat gun, it just, you know, you can't leave it in one spot too long or it will bubble the foam. You get alligator skin again. So I've used both those methods. I was somewhat successful in that I got the part straightened out, but I also created some alligator skin at the same time. So what I ended up doing was I stole my wife's backup hairdryer. It's a real old one. And I put it on the low setting. And I just kind of tested it, the heat, you know, on my arm to see how quickly I could move it back and forth and how hot it would get. I don't recommend you do that, but that's what I did. And so what I ended up doing was I ended up using that hairdryer on the low heat setting and holding the nozzle just about an inch, half an inch to an inch off of the surface of the foam, and I just moved it slowly back and forth. And as I was getting the foam heated up, I just kind of put a little pressure on it. You know, like on the one wing that had a little more bend, I wanted to straighten that one out a little bit more. So I would just slowly move that heat gun over the top of that wing until I could get enough heat in it, and then I would just kind of hold it down a little bit to remove some of that bend and then let it cool. And then I would check it again with the other wing to see how symmetrical it was. I would say, and I had to straighten out the vertical stabilizer. The horizontal stabilizer didn't look like it was warped at all, but I went over both sides, you know, the top and the bottom of the horizontal stabilizer just to make sure. And I think it is completely straight. I did the same thing with the tail end of the fuselage. I had a little bit of a bend in it. Got that straightened out. Got the wings almost perfectly symmetrical. Still off just a little bit. I couldn't get it exact, you know, just perfect. But from where I started to where I ended, they're almost symmetrical now. So that's my recommendation. You know, this heat gun, it's old. It doesn't get real hot. So you kind of just need to play around with it and test it. But the hairdryer method for me worked really well. I got everything straightened out that I needed to get straightened out. And I didn't create any alligator skin with it. So I was extremely happy with that. All the foam is all still real smooth. I would say it probably took me about, you know, with all the little pieces that I needed to straighten out, a couple of bends in the wings, vertical stabilizer, the tail, and then I just went over the horizontal stabilizer for good measure. I would say I spent probably 45 minutes getting everything straightened out, and then after that, then I applied the decals, and then and then tested the wing, got the wing straightened up on it, and then I took it out, messing with the ballast weights to see where the CG needed to be. So that's what I always try to do, no matter what kind of plane it is. I try to take it out and do a chuck test with it, just to see where the airframe likes its center of gravity for a neutral balance, you know, where it stays nice and flat. So anyway, I did what I said I was going to do in the first look at this of this glider. I did order another one. I was going to order 2 more, and then I thought about it and I thought, well, it's going to be a while before I can get to this one. It's going to be even longer before I get to the second one. And if I order 2 more and have a third one, that one's going to be so far out I can't even see it. And who knows, there might be something better come along before I ever have a chance to get to the third one. So I just ordered 1 more. If I had the time to work on these right away, I would definitely have ordered 2 more and had 3 of them. I think that that's everything. So they're still the same price when I ordered it. So if you guys haven't ordered any of these yet, now you know exactly, you know, what I did to get everything straightened out. Doesn't that look nice now? That's a pretty nice looking little glider, I think. And as inexpensive as it was, I didn't mind spending 45 minutes to get everything straightened out on it. My guess is no matter what you pay for one of these gliders, when you get it, you're going to have to straighten some of the parts out. So I didn't think that was too bad. Okay, so I think I've covered everything on this glider that I can cover. I just wanted to get it to the point that the airframe is ready to go. I'm not going to have to mess with the airframe when I get ready to do the conversion. So the next time that you see this glider will be after it's been converted and it's ready for its maiden launch. So if you haven't taken advantage of one of these yet, what are you waiting for? But anyway, thanks for watching, and I will see you in the air.